Cowboys Pregame Live is brought to you by AT&T and by NFL Game Pass. You'll never miss a game again. Enjoy full and condensed game replays from Week 1 to the Super Bowl.
There have been some massive games throughout the course of the 2021 season for the Dallas Cowboys, but today at FedEx Field in Landover, Maryland, it could be argued that this is the biggest for the Cowboys up to this point. It's Week 14 of the NFL season. The Dallas Cowboys and the Washington football team rivalry renewed here on Cowboys Pregame Live. Welcome in, everybody, to the Star in Frisco and the Globe Life Studios alongside Barry Church and Isaiah Stanback. I'm Kyle Yeomans. We'll have Britt Johnson, Rob Phillips, Nick Eatman, and, of course, Big Nate Newton joining us here in a couple of minutes. But before we get started talking about Dallas and Washington, let's talk about what's at stake today by looking at the NFC East standings, because right now things getting tight for the Cowboys that once sat comfortably up at the top of the standings. Washington, 2 games back, can get back within just a single game of the Dallas lead this week with a win. Philadelphia off this week, their bye is here in Week 14. Then the New York Giants are on the road, a 3:05 kick Central Time against the Los Angeles Chargers. So, gentlemen, with this being the context, how big of a matchup is this for the Dallas Cowboys in Landover?
Look, this is a huge matchup for the Dallas Cowboys as well as the Washington football team. But in my opinion, if the Dallas Cowboys win this game, they have a 99.9% chance of locking up this division. But you can never overlook a division opponent, especially one that swept you all last season. So they're definitely going to have to bring their A game, but this should definitely be a huge game to watch.
This is absolutely everything when it comes down to the NFC East. This is the showdown that you've been waiting for. The last 5 games of the season, who's going to play better at the end of the year, leading into the playoffs. The reality is, Washington football team's been playing consistent football. The Dallas Cowboys have not.
Yeah, you're exactly right, because I think overall with this game, we just heard the Barry Church metric of 99.9, but 4 of 5 of the final 5 games, that being said, are against the NFC East. But if you get this one taken care of and you win this one today, overall, you feel much better about your confidence moving forward. Speaking of confidence, let's go back to Mike McCarthy and hear what he had to say about his confidence level and his team's confidence earlier in the week.
We know what people think of us. We love that. We're comfortable who we are, where we are. But I'm excited about what's in front of us because, we're going to win this game. I'm confident in that, and just the prep that's going into it. But more importantly, we're going to we want to improve too along the way. So I think that's all part about what the challenge of December football gives you.
How about that for Mike McCarthy, talking about guaranteeing a win? Well, he's been pretty close to being a guarantee win in December throughout his career. A lot of those wins in, let's talk about Green Bay in December, the cold with Aaron Rodgers. So certainly that had something to do with it, but it can't be denied that after the month of November, the Cowboys have a lot of confidence heading into this final month.
Yeah, I love it. I love it, especially if you're a Dallas Cowboys player, because it shows that your coach has the utmost confidence in you to go out there and get the job done. Now, they go out there and lose this game, the backlash will be real, but that's a risk that Mike McCarthy is willing to take.
Yeah, I know you love it, BC. I don't really love it. The reason why I like it behind the scenes, right? Behind the scenes, you want your coach to have that confidence and instill that into the team. But in the image of the public, yes, right? You don't want your coach putting that pressure on you, right? There's enough pressure as a professional athlete to go out there and execute to try to win ball games. This is very reminiscent as somebody who grew up in Seattle of a Hasselbeck saying, hey, we want the ball and we're going to score. And that just happened to be against an old Green Bay team. So I don't like the fact that he's putting that pressure on his boys, but at the end of the day, they still got to show up and play.
Yeah, that also comes from the Bill Belichick mindset of let's just hype up the team that we're playing and then keep everything close to the chest. That's not necessarily what Mike McCarthy has done in the past. He hasn't done this of guaranteeing wins, and Ron Rivera even brought it up later in the week. So do you think from a league-wide standpoint, this puts even more so of a target on the back of the Cowboys?
Without a doubt. I mean, the Cowboys are already one of the most hated teams in the league. Either you're a Cowboys fan or you hate the Cowboys. So this definitely puts a target on their back, especially going into a division game against the Washington football team. So there's definitely going to be some pressure. But like I said, Mike McCarthy, he's willing to take that risk.
Hey, at the end of the day, these guys have to step up and play on behalf of not only themselves and their team, but now they got to represent the coach. coach, because the coach threw all this onto their back. But at the end of the day, these guys are going to win the ball game. I think they're going to have an opportunity to go out there and put some pressure on these guys and execute against the Washington football team that's hurting in terms of their roster.
Hey, they're hurting, and we're going to talk about that coming up on the other side of the break as well. Who's in and who's out, because the Cowboys have a couple guys that they're dealing with that as well, but the Washington football team really hit hard earlier in the week. Is Tony Pollard available? We'll tell you next as Nate Newton joins the show, and we'll go out to FedEx Field when we come back on Cowboys Pregame Live.
I think our best ball is ahead, and we've just got to continue to lock arms, be on the same page, trust all the training that we've put in going back to the spring, and it'll all pay off, even the down days.
Dak, this morning, his first comments back, Mike McCarthy didn't use the word guaranteeing the win in Washington, but he very matter-of-factly said, you guys are going to win this game. I don't know.
Yeah.
So you like hearing that from your head coach? It doesn't put the players in a bad spot?
Yeah, I agree. No, it doesn't put us in a bad spot. I mean, obviously, if you're preparing for this game, you're a Dallas Cowboy, if you're a fan, and you expect to go in and win each and every game. So I don't think he's said anything different than everyone in this building's thoughts. He just voiced it. So now we've got to make sure that we're accountable of our words. And I think that's all that is a coach setting the tone for the week. And as you said, first day back, making sure that everybody understands where his mind is and where this team's mindset is.
How does that raise you mentioned the accountability, how does that raise it in the room when you guys know your coach came out and said something like that?
I mean, it shouldn't raise it, because that your expectations, accountability, and everything, preparation should already be at an all-time high. It's a division game. We know obviously what this game means. We know what playing the Washington football team means, and so it's just as I said, it's just holding accountable to our words now. We just got to go out there and go win. Simple as that.
This segment is brought to you by Ashley Home Store, the official furniture store of the Dallas Cowboys.
The Cowboys have won 7 of their last 10 matchups with the Washington football team, but you can bet that the Cowboys have not forgotten the 2 losses that they served to the Cowboys last year from the Washington football team, 25-3 at FedEx Field and 41-16 at AT&T Stadium. And the Cowboys have a little bit of a mindset going into FedEx Field here this afternoon. Let's go out ourselves to Landover, Maryland, and talk things through with Nick Eatman, who is live on the sidelines. Nick, first off, I heard there's a commotion about some of the benches that the Cowboys will be sitting on. What's going on there, and what can we expect?
Well, you can expect some new benches. They have the nice Cowboys logo and marks all over it. I actually tweeted out a picture of the old benches that are just kind of pushed over to the side a little bit. They might get used next week. Apparently what happened was Seattle, who'd played here, called the Cowboys and said, hey, if you're looking to get some heated, warm benches, it ain't going to happen over here. They're going in and out. They're not working. And if you remember earlier this week, Ezekiel Elliott said he's fine playing outdoors as long as those benches are heated for his knee. He said it's actually better to play outdoors than on some of the indoors stadiums like New Orleans or even the Cowboys because of the heated benches. So it's a big deal to him. It's a big deal to the whole team. We're standing out here. It's pretty cool. They're gonna need some warm benches. So the Cowboys said, hey, if we can't rely on it, let's go and bring our own. They actually rented the benches from a local company, and the company itself actually had it all decked out where they were just going to go with just straight white benches, but they had it all Cowboy logos and marks, and hey, it looks nice.
It definitely does look nice, and hey, no better way to do it the Cowboys way and just go above and beyond, and it does look like that on the sideline at the moment. You mentioned Ezekiel Elliott. He is active and ready to go despite a lingering knee issue that have happened over the last couple of weeks, but Tony Pollard, the backup, not available for the Cowboys. How much does that limit this Cowboys offense today?
Well, I think when you look at the last couple of games and try to figure out who's providing the firepower, who's providing the big play, the electric plays, it's been Tony Pollard. So going up against a Washington defense that I understand that they've got a lot of guys out, they still got some of those two good tackles in the middle there. It's going to be tough to run. It always is up here. And so, yeah, it's going to hurt their team from a standpoint of probably going side to side a lot. That's where a lot of the points and a lot of the yards and big plays have come from. So the Cowboys, they did bring up a practice squad running back, Jaquan Hardy. They've got Corey Clement along with Ezekiel Elliott. They're going to have to use some of them. I think that they'll use some wide receivers and maybe some reverses and things like that. You have to stretch this team side to side. I don't think running north and south is going to be something that they'll have a lot of success on. You have to still do it, but I think that they need to go, obviously horizontal as much as they can.
Our very own Nick Eatman joining us live from FedEx Field. Nick, thanks so much for taking some time. We'll talk to you again next week. So there he goes, Nick Eatman, and now joined by Nate Newton here at the desk. And Nate, let's talk about some of these inactives. We just talked about Tony Pollard, by far the biggest name on the inactive list because the Cowboys don't really have a deep inactive list today for this one against the Washington football team. There are a lot of names up there, but in terms of really a big impact, you get guys like Randy Gregory back. DeMarcus Lawrence is back for the second straight week, and you feel pretty healthy overall, especially whenever you have Ezekiel Elliott coming off of 10 days of rest. But let's talk and keep that conversation going about Tony Pollard. It limits your offense, but it also could limit your special teams as well.
Definitely, man. He's one of the top kickoff return men in the league, scoring one this year, man. I mean, he's a big part of this offense, man. He's not only can catch the ball, come out of the backfield, he's a better third down blocker than he was when he first came into the league. And, man, you talking about can get outside on outside plays. And that's what we would have had this week. If he'd have been healthy, we'd have had an outside game, man. And that's where the Redskins are hurting on their two edge setters.
Yeah, the Washington football team outside have been really good this season, so maybe the Cowboys have an opportunity to go in between the hash marks, especially when they don't have their outside runner like Tony Pollard. Now, how much of a workload does this put on Ezekiel Elliott? We mentioned him early in the show. He's healthy. He's feeling good off of 10 days of rest, but as we've seen over the film the last couple of weeks, Zeke hasn't really looked like Zeke.
No, he hasn't, but by him having these 10 days off and resting, we're hoping that he come back and be the Zeke that we know he'll have to be. Third down will be big because he's a great blocker. And we got Corey Clements as his backup. This guy, he's a veteran guy coming from Philadelphia. He should fit in real well. But Zeke, this is the run. It's a 5-game run with injuries, bar none. It's time to go to work.
How much pressure is on him to get the job done the way that Zeke has done so throughout his Cowboys career?
It's everything. The playoffs start today. Washington has won, 4 straight. They're feeling good. They're coming down the pike. They're stopping the run. They're giving up only 91 yards per game. This is a game where we have to dominate in the run game. Run when you have to, not just to run, but run for short yardage, run for third down situations, run for end zone, for red zone situations. You have to be on par to keep this game going.
Cowboys don't have Tony Pollard. They do have Ezekiel Elliott, and like we mentioned a couple moments ago, they get some reinforcements back on the defensive side of the football. When we come back here on Cowboys Pregame Live, we take a deeper look at Randy Gregory and the combination that he'll have with DeMarcus Lawrence, Micah Parsons, and so much more. Cowboys, Washington coming up in just a little bit here on Pregame Live.
This segment was brought to you by Ashley Home Store, the official furniture store of the Dallas Cowboys.
When we were talking to Mike McCarthy today, he was talking about the game Sunday, and he said, we're going to win this game. I'm confident in that. Was that kind of his message to you when he got back in front of the team today? I know he said he was showing clips of the game, but was he kind of, this is the vision, this is it, we got to do this now?
Yeah, I feel like everybody knows the importance of this game. Everybody knows the importance of the situation, and that's always the mindset every week for us to win. So I wouldn't expect him to say we're going to lose. So, we always expect, the best. We go out there, put our best foot forward, but we know what type of game it's going to be. It's a division game, so we got to bring our stuff.
What do you think?
Smash my football.
What's your impressions of Heinicke and the threat he poses outside the pocket and as a runner, in addition to being a good pocket passer?
He cool. He cool.
He's cool. How important is
How important is this division stretch coming up?
Well, it's very important. Like I said, we all know the importance of the situation. We know the importance of these next couple games that's coming up. So, we just got to go out there, do our part, and execute. We do that, and it'll take care of itself.
Just 28 snaps this season have been played where all three of DeMarcus Lawrence, Randy Gregory, and Micah Parsons have been on the field at the same time. Well, guess what, gentlemen? That changes today as Micah Parsons, all the way healthy, 70 tackles, 10 sacks already as a rookie. You've got DeMarcus Lawrence back for the second straight week, and then Randy Gregory is back as well. So all three of these guys will be on the field at the same time. There you look at some of the numbers that they've had throughout the season. DeMarcus Lawrence missing 10 games. Randy Gregory has missed at least 3 games at the moment. So Micah Parsons has been really the lead threat on that defensive front, and now that's not the case anymore. How dangerous could all three of these guys be this week?
I think it could be extremely dangerous. I mean, when you have 2 bookends on the outside like that, it's like pick your poison. Where are you going to slide the line? Where are you going to slide the protection? And then you add a defensive weapon like Micah Parsons to where you can line him up no matter where you line him up on the formation. He can affect the quarterback. He can get after the quarterback. So to me, Isaiah, I don't know about you, but this is a scary sight.
I'm excited. I'm excited to see these guys come together and play. We've been waiting for it all year long for these guys to come together as a unit and play together. When I think about this trio, I think about D-Law. D-Law is a vocal leader and the effort guy. He's going to give you 100% every single play. You got Randy Gregory. He's kind of like the angry uncle. It takes him a while. He gets rolling, but once you piss him off, he really gets things rolling. And then you got Micah Parsons. He's the lightning in a bottle, young game changer that could really just change things at the drop of a dime. So when these 3 guys get together, I'm really looking forward to seeing how they impact the game, but we still need the presence of Gallup and also Odigizua to really clog up these guys' pipe dream.
I think that's the biggest key, is getting that help interior on the defensive line to kind of go with the pass rushing off the edge. When all 3 of those guys were on the field for those 28 snaps, there was not a sack nor really a quarterback hit recorded against Tampa Bay in week 1. But Taylor Heinicke and the Washington football team are not Tom Brady and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. But how much is it a crucial part of this game to get pressure on Heinicke and really force him to make some mistakes in this one?
I think you definitely got to get after Heinicke. I mean, this is a guy who's smaller in stature, so it's hard to see behind that offensive line to begin with. And if you get after him with the blitz, get him with those happy feet, make him make decisions before he's ready to, I think you can talk him into a lot of interceptions out there. He loves to throw that 50-50 ball up to his receivers, but when you got a guy like Diggs out there with wide receiver skills like he has, you can't throw those 50-50 balls. They become 75-25 in favor of Diggs. So I love the matchup going into this one. I can't wait to see it.
I like your thinking, BC, but I think this is a greater challenge than people are really giving the Washington football team credit for. Reason being, these guys give Heinicke the 4th most time of all quarterbacks in the NFL in terms of ability to sit back in the pocket, or over 3 seconds on average per time and per attempt. So that's a lot of time back there. So in terms of our defensive line, his ability to be able to have pressure on this is very important. And then he has these route runners on the outside. McLaurin, you got Curtis Samuel, DeAndre Carter. All these guys are really good at running routes. So the combination of time to throw the ball matched up with these guys' ability to be able to run routes is kind of tricky for us.
No, you mentioned that, and route runners have given the Cowboys defense some trouble throughout the course of the season. Do you feel like that is a disadvantage for the Cowboys in this, or have they played better against those route runners as of late?
I think it's definitely a disadvantage, but I think it's an opportunity for our guys to step up. I think Diggs and his supporting crew are going to need to take this on as a challenge directly to them to say that, hey, these guys are kind of indicative of what the Minnesota Vikings present in terms of their tandem, except for these guys have a trio.
Yeah, and when we played against those Minnesota Vikings, they did a great job, whether it was Anthony Brown or whether it was Diggs on the outside, clamping against those 2. And those 2 guys, in Jefferson and Thielen, are probably one of the best route runners in the National Football League. So if they're able to handle those guys, I don't see them having a huge problem against McLaurin and DeAndre Carter as well. But it all starts with the pressure. This D-line has got to get after Heinicke.
Yeah, it definitely looks like Curtis Samuel will play. And then, of course, Terry McLaurin, 808 yards with 5 games left to play. Maybe one of the most underrated wide receivers in the entire NFL. And another underrated wide receiver, Michael Gallup. He's had a pretty good couple of weeks. He's been targeted a lot as of late. How much? And Britt Johnson joins the show, and we'll get a chance to sit down with Michael Gallup when we return here with more Pregame Live.
We talked to you a lot about drawing doubles, chips, that type of thing. I'm sure you're excited for Micah and Randy in their own right, but how much does what they're doing help you in that regard?
Yeah, I mean, it helps me out a lot. You know, when you have 5 dominant rushers up front, it's hard to send chips. It's hard to slide the whole line. Now it's basically 5-0 protection and one-on-ones, and you know that's where I'm most comfortable at with the one-on-ones, because all honesty, I feel like no man in this world can beat me one-on-one, and that's how I approach life. You know, so just having those guys out there, man, it's a blessing to me, but also having me out there is a blessing to them.
What do you see on tape from Heinicke that impresses you, or what kind of problems does he pose?
Yeah, I feel like the thing that I see most is he's calm under pressure, and I think his speed fools a lot of people just because how you see his sets. He looks like a pocket passer like Drew Brees, but you know he still got good legs to him. So I feel like that surprises a lot of people. But you know overall, it's our job to stop him. So that's what we plan on doing.
Welcome back in the Cowboys Pregame Live alongside Britt Johnson. I'm Kyle Yeomans, and there's been only one Cowboys receiver since Week 10 to have over 30 targets thrown his direction, and that's Michael Gallup. You had a chance to catch up with Mike this week.
Yes, and as we saw last week, he kind of showed J-Ron Curse how to do the little toe drag swag on his interception, and guess what? He let us all in on the secret as well on this episode of First and 10. So I have to ask you a very important question. Where did you take ballet at?
Never took ballet.
I don't believe that, because your toe drag, swag, toe taps are like out of this world. So the people want to know, and you must have told J-Ron Curse how to do it. What is the secret to the toe drag swag? Like, how can you mentally prepare yourself to do that?
I mean, honestly, it's just a good feel for the field, knowing where you at. I don't think you can really like practice it. It's not something you can just practice, it just happens. So yeah, JK took a little page out the book.
Okay, so you guys actually have Washington this week, and you have them again in 2 weeks. So you're playing them twice in 3 weeks. Do you like that schedule like that? Do you like getting to knock these guys out once and then again 2 weeks later?
I mean, I think regardless, I mean, they're in our division, so I mean, we're going to see them, twice a year regardless. But, for me, it doesn't really matter. If you're going to line up in front of me, you're still going to have to guard me. Doesn't matter if you know our plays, if you know what we're doing, you're still going to have to guard it.
From junior college to the NFL, you're literally like a guy that defies the odds, right? So my next question for you is, what is your biggest personal goal for this season?
Biggest personal goal for this season? I mean, at first it was, just to get 1,000 yards, all 3 of us wide receivers to get 1,000 yards. Obviously, I went down with an injury, so it's been tough sledding there.
We still got a couple weeks.
We still got some weeks. We still got some weeks. It's still up there. But, I mean, right now it's just make it to the Super Bowl. That's
that was my
goal.
next question. The next is it different from a team goal? So your team goal obviously is going to be Super Bowl for you guys.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we are excited. I'll be excited. I want to go to LA.
I'm trying to go to LA.
And
I
then
like LA.
forget Disney World. We just go to Disneyland in LA, right?
You got nice weather out there. I'm here for it.
You can catch the entire interview with Michael Gallup on DallasCowboys.com. Believe it or not, since the beginning of 2020, this is only the 9th time that the Cowboys have had all 5 of their biggest pieces on offense on the field at the same time. Dak Prescott, Ezekiel Elliott, Michael Gallup, Amari Cooper, and CeeDee Lamb. All 5 of those guys, at least in the previous 8 games, it's only been 4-4, but the numbers have been drastically different. Over 32 points per game, nearly 33 points per game, and over 430 yards of offense. Michael Gallup with 5 receptions and 36 yards last week against New Orleans. When we come back, our pregame coverage is not done just yet. We'll go back out to FedEx Field. We've got plenty more to come, and we'll tell you how you can keep your pregame going right here when we come back from the Star in Frisco.
It's scary, the 3-headed monster, you could say. It's going to be exciting to all play together. But I think that's the great part about having a good practice week. We got an opportunity to all learn how to play with each other. I mean, we played with each other one time all year, so all week in practice and early on practice, we just kind of worked on timing and things like that, just trying to get back to used to being around each other and things like that. So, I mean, once we get that stuff down, I think we're going to be really good.
Yeah, I think Dan Quinn said the other day the three of y'all have only been on the field together for something like 28 snaps of the season. What can you learn when you're on the field together that you can't just in looking at the offense and knowing what you want to do on it?
It's really the chemistry. Like, when you learn what other players want to do and what their strengths and weaknesses, you got to be compatible. You know, you can't take two really good, pretty people and put them together and think they're going to be compatible, you know, because it always look good on paper. And that's the thing about opportunity to work at it. So, you know, it's a great opportunity to get better at it. I mean, D-Law is good, better at some things, working on edge or being outside, so I might have to stay outside instead of coming up or under and things like that. And those type of things, learning where a person wants to go and how you're going to get the QB down, especially playing the quarterbacks we got coming up with Heinicke, Mobile, Hurts, Mobile, Kyler Murray. We got to learn how to, so that we contain them at the same time. So, I mean, it's just those little things to get off the field.
Cowboys Pregame Live was brought to you by AT&T, SWBC Mortgage. Join the more than 120,000 customers that we've helped to find their happier way home. Visit swbcmortgage.com to find a pro today. And by NFL Game Pass. You'll never miss a game again. Enjoy full and condensed game replays from Week 1 to the Super Bowl.
Washington football team and the Dallas Cowboys, noon kickoff Central Time out at FedEx Field in Landover, Maryland. Kyle Yeoman's back with you for the final segment on the TV side of Cowboys Pregame Live. We've got plenty more pregame coverage for all those Cowboys fans out there. Go over to DallasCowboys.com and all of the Cowboys streaming services because we've got some fun stuff coming up later in the show. Let's talk about that Washington defense, a defense that blitzed more than all but 4 teams in the NFL, and at least going up against Dak Prescott and company. That's not necessarily a recipe for success. Dak Prescott, 17 touchdowns thrown this year against the blitz. We'll have Barry Church taking us to church service. And then, of course, we just talked to Michael Gallup, but which one of those big 3 receivers has to perform best today on the road in Washington? Again, noon kickoff, but join us on DallasCowboys.com. For Isaiah, for Nate, for Barry, for Britt, I'm Kyle Yeoman. Thanks for joining us on Pregame Live.
Yeah, so when we played the Broncos, like I said before, it was just one of those situations. Like, CD had literally just hurt his ankle in practice, like on a Thursday, and he decided to play through it because he's a tough kid, you know. I had just re-hurt my hamstring. You know, we're the starting 2 receivers, so of course if we're going up against NFL DVs and we're really banged up, but we decide to play, of course it's not going to look like our best football. And you know, just the other games that I don't even remember, what was the other game that you were referring to where teams pressed us?
Kansas City, New Orleans, Kansas City.
Yeah, so exactly. Yeah, so all those games, like us 3 weren't even on the field with each other at the same time how we're going to be on Sunday. And we invited, you know, we feel good. We're coming off of a relatively long break, and we're all healthy. And you know, we as receivers, you want to go against press coverage, like that's what you want to see. So I mean, if they decide to do that, that's on them. But we're excited. I think in those previous games you're referring to, there were extenuating circumstances. Not to make any excuses, but there really was, you know. And so we'll be very happy to face press coverage.
Here we are back on the internet side of things. Glad you decided to stick with us here on DallasCowboys.com. Pregame live rolling along here in week 14 of the NFL season. Isaiah Stanback, Nate Newton, we're soon to be rejoined by Barry and Britt Johnson in just a couple of moments. But let's talk first about Dak Prescott. In the past, at least through his initial 8 matchups against the Washington football team, he has been the king of the capital, talking about 16 touchdowns, just 1 interception, but not so much so in the last 3 games. So, Isaiah, I ask you as a former quarterback, what's going on with Dak Prescott as of late?
Fundamentals. Ever since he had the calf injury, the calf strain, and he came back from that, his fundamentals have been off. He's not confident sitting in a pocket. He's throwing off his back leg. His release point with his arm isn't where it needs to be, and he's not stepping up in those creases in the pocket to be able to deliver the ball with confidence and efficiency. So he needs to be able to go back and correct those things, and I think he'll improve drastically.
And to add on to that, he forgot accuracy. He has to get his accuracy back, and with all those things that he's mentioned, that should come back this week. His offensive line has played together the last 3 weeks together, so things should be coming back to normal.
And his completion percentage, his quarterback rating, and his touchdown-interception ratio have all taken a significant hit, at least since he's come back from that calf strain overall. That number, that graphic was for the last 3 games, but it's been a longer problem for Dak Prescott as of late. Now, let's take a look at the guys he's going up against, because I mentioned it in the tease of the final segment on the television side, but this is a Washington defense that likes to bring the pressure, and because of that, there's going to be plenty of guys, at least like here on this Washington defensive line, that are going to bring that pressure despite some injuries back and forth and some COVID reserve there. So you saw the numbers, not necessarily the best defensive front from a Washington standpoint, but they are going to bring the heat.
Absolutely. This is a rivalry game. This is Washington versus Dallas Cowboys in Washington. So you already know it's going to go down. These boys don't care about the stats. They don't care about the analytics. It doesn't matter. They're coming at you. You got Allen. You got Payne on that defensive line still. And there's a dude by the name of Holcomb that I think Zeke might remember from last year.
Yeah. Don't do that. Don't try to bring that. Don't even go back and pull that up.
Don't even that game.
I'm telling you, man.
Past, right?
It's going to be ugly. It's going to be physical. One thing I like is that Lyle Collins is in this game. So he's going to bring a physicalness, and he's going to transfer that up and down the line. So these guys better get ready. They got 2 horses in the middle, of Jonathan Allen and Deron Payne, so we're going to have to be on our A game. President Zach Martin.
No Chase Young, no Montez Sweat, no Smith Williams, no Tuhill. I mean, there's plenty of guys missing in that front 7, but you better believe that Ron Rivera and that defense are going to be bringing the heat against Mike McCarthy, Kellen Moore, and that Cowboys offense as well. To tell us more about what Washington's going to do on their offensive side of the football, let's bring Britt Johnson back in. Britt?
Thanks so much, Kyle. Your girl, Britt Johnson here. And did you guys know the last time the Dallas Cowboys suited up against the Washington football team? Over a year ago. Kind of crazy for a divisional team, right? Well, it was Thanksgiving of 2020, and we are back to take on the Washington football team yet again. And there is a rookie by the name of Antonio Gibson, who last year on Thanksgiving had 3 touchdowns, 100 rushing yards against us. Total last season, he had 243 rushing yards against us and 5 touchdowns. And unfortunately for us, he just keeps getting better and better. He already has 800 yards this season, on track to have over 1,000, which is why we need to have a little church service today to figure out how we're going to stop this run. And I got my man, Barry Church, to tell us how we're going to do that.
Exactly, because Antonio Gibson has been a beast against the Dallas Cowboys. But don't worry, don't fret, because I got the answers to slow this guy down. So let's jump right into the list, Britt. Number 1, we have got to set edges. To me, this is where it all starts, because like you mentioned earlier, Antonio Gibson, he has the speed to get to the edge, which can cause problems for your defense.
Right.
So you got to set edges, and I'm talking to the defensive ends on this one, whether it's DeMarcus Lawrence, Randy Gregory, Parsons, Dorrance Armstrong, who's ever out there. We got to set edges. Force that running back to go back inside to where all your help is, all your brothers, all your reinforcements to help snuff out that run. Because if they don't set the edge, Antonio Gibson can cause problems on that edge and score touchdowns, and we want no problems with that.
Yes, and last year, Gibson was there. He was doing great. Total, this rushing team had over 400 yards against the Cowboys. DeMarcus Lawrence and Randy Gregory were both in the lineup. But this year we have a special little secret. We have Parsons. So how is Parsons going to be inserted into that to help that team?
Well, he can have packages on the defensive end position to set the edge, but if he's at that linebacker position, he can use his sideline-to-sideline speed to where even if Gibson gets to that edge without any problems, he can track him down for a minimal gain and move on to the next play. So Parsons is definitely key in this matchup.
Let's move on to the next one with that. That one was great.
Our next key is we got to bring the big boy pass to this game, all right? Antonio Gibson is a beast. I'm telling you, he has the power to run between the tackles. And like I mentioned earlier, the speed to get to the outside. So arm tackles, they're not going to do it. When this guy gets rolling, he's running right through arm tackles. So you got to bring your big boy pads. And when you arrive at this guy, arrive with bad intentions, all right? Don't let him fall forward for an extra 2 to 3 yards. Stop him where he stands and move on to the next play.
And he's actually really good at this. He has about 400 yards this season alone in yards after contact. So we need to figure out how to stop this guy. And the big boy pads need to come out for sure. Number 3, what you got?
There can be no hero ball in this game. And what I mean by this is whoever's involved in the run game, whether it's your D-line, your linebackers, walk down safeties, whoever's involved in the run game, you have to focus on your responsibility and how you help this team out as a whole. You got to trust that your teammate next to you and your teammate on the other side of the formation is going to hold it down as well. Because if you got a bunch of guys out there doing their own thing, thinking they single-handedly have to stop this run, that's when your defense gets compromised. That's when you give up big plays, and we want no parts of that. So you got to trust one another and play together as a unit in order to stop this Washington football team's rushing attack.
Yes, and we are officially back as a unit. We have all our guys back. I got to ask you a question as a former football player on the defense. We know offense, cadence matters a lot. How is this going to affect the defense if this is the first time we've seen these guys play all together this season?
Well, normally if these guys were a bunch of rookies out there, I'd be concerned about their chemistry. But you got a lot of vets. You got Randy Gregory, you got DeMarcus Lawrence. They've played this game a long time. They know how to get this chemistry going, and they'll get these guys going in the right direction. So I have no worries about that.
Keys to stopping the run from Barry Church. Back to you, Kyle.
Thank you so much, Britt. Here are the guys that are going to try and stop the Cowboys' run game. And we were flashed this graphic a couple moments ago, but you look at James Smith-Williams, not available. Casey Tuhill, not available. Deron Payne, Jonathan Allen, oh, they are very much so available. And they will still bring the heat off of that defensive line and against an offensive line from the Cowboys that has not had a ton of success over the last 5 weeks of the season. So, Isaiah, I ask you first here, do you feel like this offensive line can hold their own against a defensive front that's a little depleted today?
I think that we have a greater opportunity now, obviously, with some of their main guys being out. I think the opportunities that we have in our running game is going to be out on the edges, outside our tackle boxes in terms of Smith and Collins. Interior-wise, you see Allen and Payne are still going to be sitting there creating issues for Biotis and one of the Connor bros, whichever one wants to step up and play today. But Nate Dogg might have a recipe for success.
You know what? My recipe for success is trapping. Short, quick traps with your guard. Guard, center block down, guard come around, trap. Just trap them. You know, misdirection these guys. They're great athletes. Get them going one way, go back against the grain. You know what? And if Zeke is there, you know, just hit right outside the guards. Hit right outside the guards. Double team, down block, do whatever you got to do. But, hey, be physical in what you're trying to do.
And don't go anywhere because we're going to hear a lot more from Nate Newton about this offensive line coming up in just a minute. But first, let's hear from Ezekiel Elliott, who this offensive line is hoping to pave the way for and how he feels about the matchup against Washington.
You know, it's been tough. You know, we've been playing some good fronts and some good teams on defense, and they've had some good game plans. But, I mean, I just think the best thing we all can do is just kind of lock down on our fundamentals, lock down on our teaching, and just go out there and execute.
Washington's closed the gap a little bit, but you all still have a little bit of a push. How critical is this game?
It's definitely a critical game. They're playing very good football. I think, 4 wins in a row. And they're a little banged up, but it seems like they haven't really missed much of a beat, and they've been having good game plans. So, I mean, I think all of these last games, with them being division games, 4 of our last 5 are division games. So, I mean, all of these last games are going to be critical to us winning the division.
What's the challenge of their defensive front?
I mean, you got veteran guys. I mean, they're deep. They rotate them in and out, and they do a lot of movement.
Okay, now we've heard from Ezekiel Elliott, and we've looked at some of the matchups that the Cowboys will have in their run game, trying to get that ground game going. And Nate, no better person to explain how the Cowboys can certainly do that against the Washington football team today than yourself, because they're going to have to do it a couple different ways.
Oh, they are, man. But I tell you what, I'm going to give you a look at what this run blocking scheme should be. Hey, man, let's line up, man. Let's go.
Okay, so who are we here?
This is a line.
Jonathan Allen.
Jonathan Allen. You are
linebacker.
Holcomb. This right here, I'm our starting center, and this is our starting left guard.
Yes, sir.
Which one you want to be, Connor Williams, or you want to be?
I'm going to be McGovern.
And this is Zeke. This is Zeke, our running back. Zeke, can you get back here and I quit feeding yourself? So what we want to do as an offensive line is we want to give our running back a two-way go. We want to be able to block these two guys. But we're going to do a slight stretch play. So what we're trying to do is get Zeke out to the outside. So what we're going to do against Jonathan Allen right here is we're going to try to get in him, and I'm going to try to put my head across, and we're going to go, hoping that this linebacker don't come back door, and we're hoping that he's trying to go over the top. If he go over the top, I'm taking over. My man going, and where? And she's gone. Zeke is gone. He's feeding himself. But what cannot happen? What cannot happen?
Cannot happen.
Yes, you get back over there.
Okay, I'm back over.
I cannot have Deron Payne or Jonathan Allen splitting us. Because if he split us, bad things happen to Corey Clemens or either Zeke. Here we go. So I'm trying to go through. Boom. Now he splits us. That takes our linebacker. Now me and him is free. We don't know who we got. We got a loss in the backfield. We cannot have penetration by the down lineman. If we block the down lineman, you lose. You lose as a linebacker because you cannot handle it. But if he does it, we doomed. We have to be able to run. Don't worry about it. We have to be able to run in short yardage, goal line, in the necessary situations.
Got to get it done, because today you look at the other sideline, you see that front seven without some of their biggest players. We've talked about it already. This is an opportunity for Ezekiel Elliott to get back into form, had the 10 days off, and hopefully the Cowboys blocking up front can help him do that. Now let's go back out to FedEx Field and join with Rob Phillips and Stephen Jones on the sideline. Guys?
Thanks so much, Kyle. And yes, this is the time where we usually interview Stephen Jones. He's not going to be available today, so Rob Phillips, you get to be Stephen Jones today. You want to just give us a bunch of your insight and your opinions for what's going on? And actually, I'll always ask him the same question about the atmosphere. I mean, this is pretty good stuff out here.
I was going to start with the sideline benches, but you already covered that. I think everybody's covered that part of it. Yeah, this looks like a home game right now for the Cowboys. Still a few minutes before kickoff. We know the Cowboys have a strong presence out here despite the rivalry, and there was a loud boo for the Washington football team when they came out on the field a few minutes ago. So I think that might be maybe an edge for the Cowboys today, or at least maybe 50-50. The other thing is the wind right now. As you can see, it's a little cold. Something to keep an eye on with Greg Zuerlein and Brian Anger in the kicking game today, as well as Washington. Very gusty in the Baltimore D.C. area today.
Yeah, last year's game, obviously, a little bit different from a personnel standpoint, Dak being the big one, but it was raining a lot, really a sloppy game. This obviously looks beautiful out here. Like you said, a little cool, but the wind, yeah, I am going to be worried about that one. Let's also talk about, this is going to be the first time that we've seen since week one, and I know that the guys back in the studio have already mentioned this, but from your standpoint, Tank Lawrence, Micah Parsons, Randy Gregory, how do you see all that kind of playing out here in this game?
Well, I'm interested to see if there's going to be a snap count for Neville Gallimore, who has not played at all this season. And Randy Gregory missed 3 games, and I think, they wanted to be absolutely sure with the strained calf that he would be ready to go. Maybe he's at more of a normal snap count, we'll see. But Tank Lawrence, like you said, they limited his snaps a little bit coming back. He had 37 snaps against the Saints. That will probably rise for him, but it might be more of a rotation there. But hey, it's good to have all 3 back. Good to have Tristan Hill back from suspension. And maybe we'll see Micah Parsons at linebacker a little bit more while also rushing the passer. That's something to keep an eye on as well, because with Antonio Gibson back there with Washington, they've got to keep an eye on him in the run game and the pass game.
Weird things always seem to happen when you think one way. You're talking about all these 3 pass rushers. Watch for Dorrance Armstrong. Dorrance Armstrong, the guy that we're not really talking about. I guarantee you Washington would love to have a Dorrance Armstrong right now. They're so depleted in their defensive ends. But when you're thinking about everyone else, it's always that next guy or that 4th guy. I bet he has a pretty good game in this one. And he's a guy that's kind of been coming on quietly, but he'll make some plays.
You're right, and it's the old adage, the 4 equals 1 with the pass rush. They all work together in tandem. That's one thing Micah Parsons talked about this week. It's great to have all of us back, but we've got to work together and know each other's strengths to get to the quarterback. This game comes down to that, I think, for the Cowboys, as well as protecting Dak Prescott, especially up the middle. Preventing that middle rush with Jonathan Allen and Deron Payne, and allowing him to get the ball to his outside receivers, because they always feel like week to week they can win those matchups.
Rob, I don't know if you saw this, but I'll say this about Ezekiel Elliott. He hasn't been hit yet, but he looks as good right now in the pregame warm-ups. Got a lot of good bounce to him. you can just kind of tell. I think he feels with Pollard out, he knows that, Jaquan Hardy, Corey Clement, there's pretty much a big drop off there. He's going to have to carry the load. Literally, I think he's up for the challenge.
Yeah, and you know what? He said it's only 3 extra days with kind of that mini bye that they had. He said it made a difference for that knee injury that he's dealing with. So we'll see. He was not even had a game status designation for this week. He wasn't questionable. They've got to find a way to try to run the football. Washington does not allow much. 4.1 per carry. That's one of the best in the league. Cowboys, that's all they're averaging these last 6 weeks since the bye. They got to get that going a little bit.
Well, you know what else Zeke's got going for him? Warm, heated benches over here, okay? That's one thing he was talking about, and he's got it for this one. All right, for Rob Phillips, I'm Nick Eatman. We'll throw it back to you guys in the studio.
Yeah, hopefully all the benches help Zeke out and hopefully propel the Cowboys to a big-time win and 9-4. That does it, though, for us here on Cowboys Pregame Live. For Barry Church, Isaiah Stanback, Nate Newton, noon kickoff Central Time. It's Cowboys football team on Fox. Kevin Burkhardt, Greg Olson on the call. Enjoy the game, everybody. We'll see you afterwards on DallasCowboys.com.